Hello and welcome back to Memory Lane, Stories for Seniors. My name is Corey. I realized I don't normally introduce myself, but my name is Corey and I'm with the Sylvan Lake Library. And we are going to continue reading The Jungle Book by Rudyard Kipling. So we are starting on a new chapter today, Letting in the Jungle. Now, this is a bit longer of a chapter than we've been reading normally. So this chapter is actually going to be split into two readings. So we'll do one this week and then we'll do one next week. It might be Maddie reading with you guys next week, so please do remember to tune in. If you aren't able to watch live, we also post these onto our YouTube channel, so you can always check out the Sylvan Lake Library on YouTube and follow the story as we read it there as well. Not too much else to say about this today. I hope you guys enjoy this story. Feel free to check in and say hi. Let me know if this is your first time reading or listening to The Jungle Book. If it's not, let me know what your thoughts are on it. If you like it, if you don't like it, what are some of your fond memories of it? If you remember reading it when you were a kid or when you were in school, let me know. But without further ado, we will begin. And before the chapter, we have a section called Mowgli's Song. That he sang at the Council Rock when he danced on Shere Khan's hide. The song of Mowgli, I, Mowgli, am singing. Let the jungle listen to the things I have done. Shere Khan said he would kill. At the gates in the twilight, he would kill Mowgli the frog. He ate and he drank. Drink deep, Shere Khan, for when wilt thou drink again? Sleep and dream of the kill. I am alone on the grazing grounds. Gray brother, come to me. Come to me, lone wolf, for there is big game afoot. Bring up the great bull buffaloes, the blue-skinned herd bulls with angry eyes. Drive them to and fro as I order. Sleepest thou still, Shere Khan? Wake, awake. Here come I, and the bulls are behind. Rama, the king of the buffaloes, stamped with his foot. Waters of the Wainganga, whither went Shere Khan? He is not Sahi to dig holes, nor more the peacock that he should fly. He is not Mang the bat to hang in the branches. Little bamboos that creak together, tell me where he ran. Ow, he is there. Ahoo, he is there. Under the feet of Rama lies the lame one. Up, Shere Khan, up and kill. Here is meat. Break the necks of the bulls. Hush, he is asleep. We will not wake him, for his strength is very great. The kites have come down to see it. The black ants have come up to know it. There is great assembly in his honor. Ah, la, la, I have no cloth to wrap me. The kites will see that I am naked. I am ashamed to meet all these people. Lend me thy coat, Shere Khan. Lend me thy gay striped coat, that I may go to the Council Rock. By the bull that bought me, I made a promise, a little promise. Only thy coat is lacking before I keep my word. With the knife that men use, with the knife of the hunter, I will stoop down for my gift. Waters of the Wainganga, Shere Khan gives me his coat for the love that he bears me. Pull, gray brother, pull, Akela. Heavy is the hide of Shere Khan. The man pack are angry. They throw stones and talk child's talk. My mouth is bleeding. Let me run away. Through the hot night, run swiftly with me, my brothers. We will leave the lights of the village and go to the low moon. Waters of the Wainganga, the man-pack have cast me out. I did them no harm, but they were afraid of me. Why? Wolf-pack, ye have cast me out too. The jungle is shut to me, and the village gates are shut. Why? As Mang flies between the beasts and birds, so fly I between the village and the jungle. Why? I dance on the hide of Shere Khan, but my heart is very heavy. My mouth is cut and wounded with the stones from the village, but my heart is very light because I have come back to the jungle. Why? These two things fight together in me as the snakes fight in the spring. The water comes out of my eyes, yet I laugh while it falls. Why? I am two Mowglis, but the hide of Shere Khan is under my feet. All the jungle knows that I have killed Shere Khan. Look, look well, O wolves. Ah, yeah, my heart is very heavy with the things I don't understand. Letting in the jungle. Veil them, cover them, wall them round, blossom and creeper and weed. Let us forget the sight and the sound and the smell and the touch of the breed. Fat black ash by the altar stone, here is the whitefoot rain, and does bring forth in the fields unsown, and none may affright them again. And the blind walls crumble, unknown o'erthrown, and none may inhabit again. You will remember, if you have read the earlier Jungle Book tales, that after Mowgli had pinned Shere Khan's hide to the Council Rock, he told as many as were left of the Sayanay pack that henceforth he would hunt in the jungle alone, and the 4 children of Mother and Father Wolf said that they would hunt with him. But it is not easy to change all one's life at once, particularly in the jungle. The thing Mowgli did, when the disorderly pack had slunk off, was to go to the home cave and sleep for a day and a night. Then he told Mother Wolf and Father Wolf as much as they could understand of his adventures among men, and when he made the morning sun flicker up and down in the blade of his skinning knife, the same he had skinned Shere Khan with, they said he had learned something. Then Akela and Gray Brother had to explain their share of the great buffalo drive in the ravine, and Baloo toiled up to hear all about it, and Bagheera scratched himself all over with pure delight at the way in which Mowgli had managed his war. It was long after sunrise, but no one dreamed of going to sleep, and from time to time Mother Wolf would throw up her head and sniff a deep snuff of satisfaction as the wind brought her the smell of the tiger skin on the Council Rock. But for Akela and Gray Brother here, Mowgli said at the end, I could have done nothing. Oh, mother, mother, if thou had seen the blue-herd bulls pour down the ravine, or hurry through the gates when the man-pack flung stones at me. I am glad I did not see that last, said Mother Wolf stiffly. It is not my custom to suffer cubs to be driven to and fro like jackals. I would have taken a price from the man-pack, but I would have spared the woman who gave thee the milk. Yes, I would have spared her alone. Peace, peace, Raksha, said Father Wolf lazily. Our frog has come back again, so wise that his own father must lick his feet. And what is a cut, more or less, on the head? Leave man alone. Baloo and Bagheera echoed, Leave man alone. Mowgli, his head on Mother Wolf's side, smiled contentedly, and said that, for his own part, he never wished to see or hear or smell man again. But what, said Akela, cocking one ear, but what if men do not leave thee alone, little brother? We be 5, said Gray Brother, looking round at the company and snapping his jaws on the last word. We also might attend to that hunting, said Bagheera, with a light switch of his tail, looking at Baloo. But why think of man now, Akela? For this reason, the Lone Wolf answered. When that yellow thief's hide was hung up on the rock, I went back along our trail to the village, stepping in my tracks, turning aside and lying down to make a mixed trail in case any should follow us. But when I had fouled the trail so that I myself hardly knew it again, Mang the Bat came hawking between the trees and hung up above me. Said Mang, the village of the man-pack, where they cast out the man-cub, hums like a hornet's nest. It was a big stone that I threw, chuckled Mowgli, who had often amused himself by throwing ripe pawpaws into a hornet's nest and racing to the nearest pool before the hornets caught him. I asked of Mang what he had seen. He said that the red flower blossomed at the gate of the village, and men sat about it carrying guns. Now I know, for I have a good cause, said Aquila. Aquila looked here at the old dry scars on his flank and side, that men do not carry guns for pleasure. Presently, little brother, a man with a gun follows our trail, if indeed he be not already on it. But why should he? Men have cast me out. What more do they need? Said Mowgli angrily. Thou art a man, little brother, Aquila returned. It is not for us, the free hunters, to tell thee what thy brethren do or why. He had just time to snatch up his paw as the skinning knife cut deep into the ground below. Mowgli struck quicker than an average human eye could follow, but Aquila was a wolf, and even a dog, who is very far removed from the wild wolf, his ancestor, can be waked out of a deep sleep by a cartwheel touching his flank, and can spring away unharmed before that wheel comes on. Another time, Mowgli said quietly, returning the knife to its sheath. Speak of the man-pack and of Mowgli in 2 breaths, not 1. Poof, that is Sharp-Tooth, said Aquila, snuffing at the blades cut in the earth. But living with the man-pack has spoiled thine eye, little brother. I could have killed a buck while thou wast striking. Bagheera sprang to his feet, thrust up his head as far as he could, sniffed, and stiffened through every curve in his body. Gray Brother followed his example quickly, keeping a little to his left to get the wind that was blowing from the right, while Aquila bounded 50 yards upwind and, half crouching, stiffened too. Mowgli looked on enviously. He could smell things as very few human beings could, but he had never reached the hair-trigger-like sensitiveness of a jungle nose, and his 3 months in the smoky village had put him back sadly. However, he dampened his finger, rubbed it on his nose, and stood erect to catch the upper scent, which, though the faintest, is the truest. Man, Aquila growled, dropping on his haunches. Buldeo, said Mowgli, sitting down. He follows our trail, and yonder is the sunlight on his gun. Look! It was no more than a splash of sunlight for a fraction of a second on the brass clamps of the old tower musket, but nothing in the jungle winks with just that flash, except when the clouds race over the sky. Then a piece of mica, or a little pool, or even a highly polished leaf will flash like a heliograph. But that day was cloudless and still. I knew men would follow, said Aquila triumphantly. Not for nothing have I led the pack. Mowgli's 4 wolves said nothing, but ran downhill on their bellies, melting into the thorn and underbrush. Whither go thee, and without a word? Mowgli called. Hush! We roll his skull here before midday, Gray Brother answered. Back! Back and wait! Man does not eat man, Mowgli shrieked. Who was a wolf but now? Who drove the knife at me for thinking he might be a man? Said Aquila, as the 4 turned back sullenly and dropped to heel. Am I to give reason for all I choose to do? Said Mowgli furiously. That is man. There speaks man, Bagheera muttered under his whiskers. Even so did men talk around the king's cages at Uidapur. We of the jungle know that man is wisest of all. If we trusted our ears, we should know that of all things he is most foolish. Raising his voice, he added, the man-cub is right in this. Men hunt in packs. To kill one, unless we know what the others will do, is bad hunting. Come, let us see what this man means toward us. We will not come, Gray Brother growled. Hunt alone, little brother. We know our own minds. The skull would have been ready to bring by now. Mowgli had been looking from one to the other of his friends, his chest heaving and his eyes full of tears. He strode forward and, dropping on one knee, said, Do I not know my own mind? Look at me. They looked uneasily, and when their eyes wandered, he called them back again and again, till their hair stood up all over their bodies, and they trembled in every limb, while Mowgli stared and stared. "Now," he said, "of us 5, which is leader?" "Thou art leader, little brother," said Gray Brother, and he licked Mowgli's foot. "Follow, then," said Mowgli, and the 4 followed at his heels with their tails between their legs. "This comes of living with the man-pack," said Bagheera, slipping down after them. "There is more in the jungle now than jungle law, Baloo." The old bear said nothing, but he thought many things. Mowgli cut across noiselessly through the jungle, at right angles to Baldio's path, till, parting the undergrowth, he saw the old man, his musket on his shoulder, running up the 2-days-old trail at a dog trot. You will remember that Mowgli had left the village with the heavy weight of Shere Khan's raw hide on his shoulders, while Akela and Gray Brother trotted behind, so that the trail was very clearly marked. Presently, Baldio came to where Akela, as you know, had gone back and mixed it all up. Then he sat down, coughed and grunted, and made little casts round and about into the jungle to pick it up again. And all the time he could have thrown a stone over those who were watching him. No one can be so silent as a wolf when he does not care to be heard. And Mowgli, though the wolves thought he moved very clumsily, could come and go like a shadow. They ringed the old man as a school of porpoises ring a steamer at full speed. And as they ringed him, they talked unconcernedly, for their speech began the lowest end of the scale that untaught humans can hear. The other end is bounded by the high squeak of Mang the bat, which very many people cannot catch at all. From that note, all the bird and bat and insect talk takes on. "This is better than any kill," said Gray Brother, as Baldio stooped and peered and puffed. "He looks like a lost pig in the jungles by the river. What does he say?" Baldio was muttering savagely. Mowgli translated. "He says that packs of wolves must have danced round me. He says that he never saw such a trail in his life. He says he is tired." "He will be rested before he picks it up again," said Bagheera coolly, as he slipped round a tree trunk in the game of blind man's bluff they were playing. "Now, what does the lean thing do?" "Eat or blow smoke out of his mouth. Men always play with their mouths," said Mowgli, and the silent trailers saw the old man fill and light and puff at a water pipe, and they took good note of the smell of the tobacco, so as to be sure of Baldio in the darkest night, if necessary. Then a little knot of charcoal burners came down the path, and naturally halted to speak to Baldio, whose fame as a hunter reached for at least 20 miles round. They all sat down and smoked, and Bagheera and the others came up and watched, while Baldio began to tell the story of Mowgli, the devil child, from one end to another, with additions and inventions. Mowgli, how he himself had really killed Shere Khan, and how Mowgli had turned himself into a wolf and fought with him all the afternoon, and changed into a boy again, and bewitched Baldio's rifle so that the bullet turned the corner when he pointed it at Mowgli, and killed one of Baldio's own buffaloes, and how the village, knowing him to be the bravest in the Sayanay, had sent him out to kill this devil child. But meantime, the village had gotten hold of Messua and her husband, who were undoubtedly the father and mother of this devil child, and had barricaded them in their own hut, and presently would torture them to make them confess they were witch and wizard, and then they would be burned to death. "When?" said the charcoal burners, because they would very much like to be present at the ceremony. Baldio said that nothing would be done till he returned, because the village wished him to kill the jungle boy first. After that they would dispose of Messua and her husband, and divide their land and buffaloes among the village. Messua's husband had some remarkably fine buffaloes, too. It was an excellent thing to destroy wizards, Baldio thought, and people who entertained wolf children out of the jungle were clearly the worst kind of witches. "But," said the charcoal burners, "what would happen if the English heard of it?" The English, they had been told, were a perfectly mad people who would not let honest farmers kill witches in peace. Why, said Buldeo, the headman of the village would report that Messua and her husband had died of a snake bite. That was all arranged, and the only thing now was to kill the wolf child. They did not happen to have seen anything of such a creature. The charcoal burners looked round cautiously and thanked their stars that they had not. But they had no doubt that so brave a man as Buldeo would find him if anyone could. The sun was getting rather low, and they had an idea that they would push on to Buldeo's village and see the wicked witch. Buldeo said that, though it was his duty to kill the devil child, he could not think of letting a party of unarmed men go through the jungle, which might reveal the wolf demon at any minute, without his escort. He, therefore, would accompany them, and if the sorcerer's child appeared, well, he would show them how the best hunter in the Saene dealt with such things. The Brahmin, he said, had given him a charm against the creature that made everything perfectly safe. What says he? What says he? What says he? The wolves repeated every few minutes, and Mowgli translated until he came to the witch part of the story, which was a little beyond him, and then said that the man and woman who had been so kind to him were trapped. Do men trap men? Said Grey Brother. So he says. I cannot understand the talk. They are all mad together. What have Messua and her man to do with me, that they should be put in a trap? And what is all this talk about the red flower? I must look to this. Whatever they would do to Messua, they will not do till Buldeo returns. And so... Mowgli thought hard, with his fingers playing round the haft of his skinning knife, while Buldeo and the charcoal burners went off very valiantly in single file. I go hot-foot back to the man-pack, Mowgli said at last. And those? Said Grey Brother, looking hungrily after the brown backs of the charcoal burners. Sing them home, said Mowgli with a grin. I do not wish them to be at the village gate till it is dark. Can ye hold them? Grey Brother bared his white teeth in contempt. We can herd them round and round in circles like tethered goats, if I know man. That I do not need. Sing to them a little, lest they be lonely on the road. And, Grey Brother, the song need not be of the sweetest. Go with them, Bagheera, and help make that song. When night is laid down, meet me by the village. Grey Brother knows the place. It is no light hunting to track for a man-cub. When shall I sleep? Said Bagheera, yawning, though his eyes showed he was delighted with the amusement. Me to sing to naked men. But let us try. He lowered his head so that the sound would travel, and cried a long, long, good hunting, a midnight call in the afternoon, which was quite awful enough to begin with. Mowgli heard it rumble and rise, and laughed to himself as he ran through the jungle. He could see the charcoal burners huddled in a knot, old Buldeo's gun barrel waving like a banana leaf to every point of the compass at once. Then Grey Brother gave the ya-la-hee, ya-la-ha call for the buck driving, when the pack drives the nilgai, the big blue cow, before them. And it seemed to come from the very ends of the earth, nearer and nearer and nearer, till it ended in a shriek snapped off short. The other three answered, till even Mowgli could have vowed that the full pack was in full cry. And then they all broke into the magnificent morning song in the jungle, with every turn and flourish and grace note that a deep-mouthed wolf of the pack knows. This is a rough rendering of the song, but you must imagine what it sounds like when it breaks the afternoon hush of the jungle. One moment past our bodies cast, no shadow on the plain. Now clear and black they stride our track, and we run home again. In morning hush, each rock and bush stands hard and high and raw. Then give the call, good rest to all that keep the jungle law. Now horn and pelt our peoples melt in covert to abide. Now crouched and still to cave and hill our jungle barons glide. Now stark and plain, man's oxen strain that draw the new-yoked plough. Now stripped in dread, the dawn is red above the lit tallow. Ho, get to lair, the sun's aflare behind the breathing grass, and creaking through the young bamboo, the warning whispers pass. By day made strange, the woods we range, with blinking eyes we scan, while down the skies the wild duck cries, the day to man. The dew is dried that drenched our hide, or washed about our way, and where we drank, the puddled bank is crisping into clay. The trader dark gives up each mark of stretched or hooded claw, then hear the call, God rest to all that keep the jungle law. But no translation can give the effect of it, or the yelping scorn the four threw into every ward of it, as they heard the trees crash when the men hastily climbed up into the branches, and Buldeo began repeating incantations and charms. Then they laid down and slept, for like all who live by their own exertions, they were of a methodical cast of mind, and no one can work that well without sleep. Meantime, Mowgli was putting the miles behind him, 9 to the hour, swinging on, delighted to find himself so fit after all his cramped months among men. The one idea in his head was to get Messua and her husband out of the trap, whatever it was, for he had a natural mistrust of traps. Later on, he promised himself he would begin to pay his debts to the village at large. It was at twilight when he saw the well-remembered grazing grounds and the dock tree where Grey Brother had waited for him on the morning that he had killed Shere Khan. Angry as he was at the whole breed and community of man, something jumped up in his throat and made him catch his breath when he looked at the village roofs. He noticed that everyone had come in from the fields unusually early, and that, instead of getting to their evening cooking, they gathered in a crowd under the village tree and chattered and shouted. Men must always be making traps for men, or they are not content, said Mowgli. 2 nights ago it was Mowgli, but that night seems many rains old. Tonight it is Messua and her man. Tomorrow, and for many nights after, it will be Mowgli's turn again. He crept along the outside wall till he came to Messua's hut and looked through the window into the room. There lay Messua, gagged and bound hand and foot, breathing hard and groaning. Her husband was tied to the gaily painted bedstead. The door of the hut that opened to the street was shut fast, and 3 or 4 people were sitting with their backs to it. Mowgli knew the manners and customs of the villagers very fairly. He argued that so long as they could eat and talk and smoke, they would not do anything else. But as soon as they had fed, they would begin to be dangerous. Buldeo would be coming in before long, and if his escort had done its duty, Buldeo would have a very interesting tale to tell. So he went through the window and, stooping over the man and the woman, cut their thongs, pulling out the gags, and looked round the hut for some milk. Messua was half wild with pain and fear. She had been beaten and stoned all the morning, and Mowgli put his hand over her mouth just in time to stop a scream. Her husband was only bewildered and angry, and sat picking dust and things out of his torn beard. I knew he would come," Messua sobbed at last. "Now do I know that he is my son," and she caught Mowgli to her heart. Up to that time, Mowgli had been perfectly steady, but here he began to tremble all over, and that surprised him immensely. "Why are these thongs? Why have they tied thee?" he asked after a pause. "To be put to the death for making a son of thee. What else?" said the man sullenly. "Look, I bleed." Messua said nothing, but it was at her wounds that Mowgli looked, and they heard him grit his teeth when he saw the blood. "Whose work is this?" said he. "There is a price to pay." "The work of all the village. I was too rich. I had too many cattle. Therefore she and I are witches, because we gave thee shelter." "I do not understand. Let Messua tell the tale." "I gave thee milk, Nathu. Dost thou remember?" Messua said timidly. "Because thou wast my son, whom the tiger took, and because I loved thee very dearly. They said that I was thy mother, the mother of a devil, and therefore worthy of death." "And what is a devil?" said Mowgli. "Death I have seen." The man looked up gloomily under his eyebrows, but Messua laughed. "See," she said to her husband, "I knew. I said that he was no sorcerer. He is my son, my son." "Son or sorcerer, what good will that do to us?" the man answered. "We be as dead already." "Yonder is the road through the jungle," Mowgli pointed through the window. "Your hands and feet are free. Go now." "We do not know the jungle, my son, as thou knowest," Messua began. "I do not think I could walk far." "And the men and women would be upon our backs and drag us here again," said the husband. Said Mowgli, and he tickled the palm of his hand with the tip of his skinning knife. "I have no wish to do harm to anyone of this village, yet. But I do not think they will stay thee. In a little while they will have much to think upon. Ah!" He lifted his head and listened to shouting and trampling outside. "So they have let Buldeo come home at last?" "He was sent out this morning to kill thee," Messua cried. "Didst thou meet him?" "Yes, I met him. He has a tale to tell, and while he is telling it, there is time to do much. But first I will learn what they mean. Think where ye would go, and tell me when I come back." He bounded through the window and ran along outside the wall of the village till he came within earshot of the crowd round the peepul tree. Buldeo was lying on the ground, coughing and groaning, and everyone was asking him questions. His hair had fallen about his shoulders, his hands and legs were skinned from climbing up trees, and he could hardly speak, but he felt the importance of his position keenly. From time to time he said something about devils and singing devils and magic enchantment, just to give the crowd a taste of what was coming. Then he called for water. "Bah!" said Mowgli. "Chatter, chatter! Talk, talk! Men are blood brothers of the Bandarlog. Now he must wash his mouth with water, now he must blow smoke, and when all that is done, he still has his story to tell. They are very wise people, men. They will leave no one to guard Messua till their ears are stuffed with Buldeo's tales, and I grow as lazy as they." He shook himself and glided back to the hut. Just as he was at the window, he felt a touch on his foot. "Mother," he said, for he knew that tongue well, what dost thou hear?" "I heard my children singing through the woods, and I followed the one I loved best. Little Frog, I have a desire to see that woman who gave thee milk," said Mother Wolf, all wet with the dew. "They have bound and mean to kill her. I have cut those ties, and she goes with her man through the jungle. I also will follow. I am old, but not yet toothless." Mother Wolf reared herself up on end and looked through the window in the dark of the hut. In a minute she dropped noiselessly, and all she said was, "I gave thee my first milk, but Bagheera speaks truth. Man goes to man at the last." "Maybe," said Mowgli, with a very unpleasant look on his face. "But tonight I am very far from that trail. Wait here, but do not let her see." "Thou wast never afraid of me, Little Frog," said Mother Wolf, backing high into the grass and blotting herself out as she knew how. "And now," said Mowgli cheerfully, as he swung into the hut again, "they are all sitting round Buldeo, who is saying that which did not happen. When his talk is finished, they say they will assuredly come here with fire and burn you both. And then?" "I have spoken to my man," said Messua. "Kaniwara is 30 miles from here, but at Kaniwara we might find the English." "And what pack are they?" said Mowgli. "I do not know. They be white, and it is said that they govern all the land, and do not suffer people to burn or beat each other without witnesses. If we can get thither tonight, we live. Otherwise we die." Live then. No man passes the gates tonight. But what does he do? Messua's husband was on his hands and knees, digging up the earth in one corner of his hut. It is his little money, said Messua. We take nothing else. All right. Well, we'll end it there today. We'll pick up the last half of that chapter next week. Thank you for joining us for Stories for Seniors today, Memory Lane. As I mentioned before, these will be posted to our YouTube channel as well. So if you'd like to watch them there, you certainly can. We will see you guys back next week. Miss Maddie will be reading with you. And then I'll be back in a couple weeks to keep on going. I'm excited to see where this story goes. As I mentioned in another video, I've never actually read the Jungle Book before, so I'm excited to see where it will go. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Enjoy the rest of your week. Stay safe and stay healthy. Bye.